Morning to everyone. Now today MMPH 004 again. Today actually we have to discuss the block number 3, that is the unit 10, 11 and 12 we have to discuss. Now first see the content of the block 3, that is the collective bargaining, and there are 3 units. That is your collective bargaining, basically the concept, and then your bargaining structures and the process and the agreement, and then finally the unit number 12 is your negotiations. Now let's see, try to understand what is the collective bargaining. That is your collective bargaining is a term. Basically it is a term of collective bargaining that is basically oriented in the your writing of the your Sydney and the British waves. That first times they have exchanges, and the fame from there actually it is now popular for these things, and British labor movement has declared, and that time they have to collectively done some of the conclusions towards the end of the 19th century it has happened. So collective bargaining, it is basically a process for a joint meeting and joint decision making, and basically they represents in a democratic way what is the problems, what are the agenda points, so collecting the things and which are the best points or ideas are to be taken from the both sides, from the union sides, I mean the employee sides and the employer sides, or rather I can say from the industrial point of view, from industry point of view, and from the human point of view, means in the your employees point of view. So when issues or the problems arise, then only the collective bargaining is required. Otherwise, if it is a normal, nothing, no problem, no issues, so maybe the bargaining process may not be required. So bargaining will start when the things are for the solution purposes. So collective bargaining has been defined in the as per the encyclopedia, the social sciences, as a process of discussions and the negotiations between the two parties, one of the both of whom as a group of persons acting in concerns. The resulting for the bargaining is an understanding as to the term of the conditions under which a continuing service is to be performed. So within these peripheral areas, whether the textures, whether the structures within the structures, so that understanding should be good, and everybody can perform well. So that should be what are the services can be continued. Then there are so many functions are there in the collective bargainings. The collective bargainings as a serve of a number of important functions. There is number of functions are there. It is a rule making for the legislative process, in the sense that it formulates the terms and conditions, and labor and management may cooperate and work together for a certain state of periods, and that should be some of the agreement. It should be a written forms of the things. Structures. Now, to do so, this process, to fulfill the process, you should have some of the structures. So structures of the your collective bargaining, that is basically the regularization, what type of rules and policies, patterns, and there that has to be decided, where the unions and the management can be interact, or we can say the network for your institutionalization bargaining relationships. Every bargaining structure is comprises of the bargaining levels, bargaining units, bargaining firms, and bargaining scope, because scope has to be defined in different levels, and accordingly the representatives or maybe those who are participating, that has to be fixed. Yes, it is this type of issues related to these things where the bargaining is required, so level of representations are also to be required in this way. So that is the structural levels. See, now in collective bargaining, the employer does not deal with the workers directly, but he deals with a collective authorized institutions. I mean, for example, the management are not directly discussed with the laborers or workers, junior levels. They have to call their leaders, the unions leaders, those who are representative of the workers. They call them and discuss. Or vice versa. Sometimes the union leaders also take a appointment or for the conducting some of the meetings with the management. They are also in the management levels. Accordingly, they have to fix who will go there to negotiate the things. So everywhere some portfolio is there and post is defined, level is also defined, who will discuss for whom, to whom. So fixing of the price of the labor services, basically the negotiation or a bargaining process are basically the pay structures discussions, what type of salary should be there, what type of fringe benefits should be there, what type of allowances are to be there. So for this bargaining process are going on, and finally it has to be fixed. Providing a machineries for the representations of the individual and the group interest. So what type of machineries are required and to be provided, that also to be discussed. Now the content of your collective bargaining. The content of the collective, it is a collective bargaining is a, among other things, a rule making or the norm creating process of a bilateral kind. Both the parties will sit together and they have to create some of the things. What are the norms? Basically norm creatings. Then you can say that basically the rules, policies are different criteria and characteristics of the things are to be decided. The three kinds of relations which are regulated by the substantive rules are, there are three types. One is your economic or the market relationships, then your governmental relationships, and your whole workplace relationships. So keeping in view of the relations are, the level of the rules are to be prepared accordingly. There are two types of bargaining exercises. One is known as conjunctive type, or we can say the distributed type bargaining, and the other one is integrative, or we can say the cooperative bargainings. So different types levels are to be memorized. I mean, you have to keep in mind when you are answering the questions. Definitely all these steps wise you have to briefing the things. If the questions are coming, describe the bargaining process, then you have to paragraph wise you have to, first things you have to see the what are the functions, then after that what are the types, what are the objectives of these things, to negotiate the things, to formulation the things, to making the norm, different norms. So to different steps, different paragraphs will be there, and you can write things. Issues for considerations. Basically, the issues pertaining to union recognitions, union security come up for the considerations when the organizations or the workers are weak. That time you have to some issues. Yes, this union is not recognized, why should I go for these things? Management will not discuss with them. So there are some issues are there. They have to recover. First things they have to recognize. They have to licensings or registered by the government. There are some rule and regulations are there. So that is the issue for the considerations things. As they struggles for the recognition by the employers, and their struggles. So normally it is not very easy to recognized by any employer, will not recognize straightway. There are some conditions are there that has to be fulfilled, or we can say some of the your constants, some of the constants are there. The collective bargaining is a your flexible concept. It is a flexible concept, and it is a natural give and take policies. That's why I have highlighted the things give and take policies. Before the final agreement is reached or the final settlement is arrived. So both the parties from the management side and from the union sides, keeping in view of the welfare of the company and as well as for the welfare of the employees. I mean, the employee company's welfare means growth, development, quality, market, stock of the market shares. All these things are to keep in mind when you are negotiating or when you are jointly signing the things. Yes, before settlement, you have to see it should be in a positive impact. That should be a positive impact. Then it provides a mechanisms for the organizations, for the organized relationships between the management and the trade unions. So there some of the mechanisms is the point. The heart of the collective bargaining is the process for a continuing joint consultations and adjustment of the various problems of the organizations. Now coming to the unit number 11, where the bargaining structure. Now we have to discuss about the structures and the process and the agreements, different agreements. The bargaining process now it is a today's the collective bargaining process is based upon the statutory law. There are some of the laws are there, and what makes the collective collective bargaining possible. So in this context is both labor and the management have an ultimate harmony and interest to be shown. That is a desire to assure that the firm for which they are work and from which they are both paid will remain a business. Means management has to see the workers' condition, their desires, what are the things are really required for the living purposes. I mean the social needs are to be fulfilled. Parallelly, the workers, employees also to see the growth of the companies. So interests are to be main points. In order to say in business, because it must be competitive with other firms. Here actually one of the points is this main point. Management is a point of from the management sides. If the management giving a good pay package or considering all the points of the unions and the employees' points from the market point of view, yes, what we are decided or giving the things for the betterment of the employees as well as a market level, considering the yes, it is a sustainable amount and competitive amount. What are the pay package of salaries, or we can say the compensation package as such. So it will dual effect. I mean advantage. One is The employees are happy because they have a good, uh, after the bargaining process, now they have achieved a good pay packages. They're really happy. They have to more oriented to do the positive works. They can dedicate it. They can commitment of the work, committed to the works. At the same time, others outside employees, other companies employees also to be attracted. New freshers will be also to be attracted. Those who are willing to join this company because there are compensation package is very good and it is very competitive. So that's why there are two advantages are there. So that things management has to keep in mind when they are in this process of bargaining settlement of these things. So that's why it is I bolded written that in order to stay in business, if you really want to stay in the business in the market basically, then it must be competitive with other firms. Otherwise, what happen? Turnover, I mean the retention problem will be there. So employee may not be stay for a long time. They have to try to join the other companies. So that is one of the main point in the today's scenario of the global scenarios. Settlement as such, okay, well, I can say some of the points is agreed by the union, some of the points are, so now you are settled, this is the things, some criteria is fixed, and so for this you have to different aspects of this for defining things. So as per the section 2p of the Industrial Dispute Act 1947, it is emphasized the two categories of settlement. There are two settlements out there that has to be compiled. So I think basically what are the Dispute Act is there, that has to be considered. Means you have to follow the act. A settlement which is arrived at in the course of coalition's proceedings, that is which is arrived at which the assistance and the concurrence of the consultations of officers, and that is one of the things, and the agreement between the employer and the workmen arrived at otherwise than in the course of your consultations proceedings. So there are two things are to be things which are already tabulated, I think stipulated in the your Dispute Act 1947. That has to be followed. So agreement basically where joining, signed and stamped, whatever the rules are there. The range of subjects which may be covered by the your collective bargaining and agreements is very wide. There are so many points has to be written clearly, how much salaries and what the hours, how many leaves, other benefits, whatever the things, everything are to be written, and the section wise you have written right. Some agreements are short and deal with only the few matters. Some of these small matters, but when you are in a overall wide range of settlement, then there should be that agreement should be point wise, everything should be there. Maybe sections, subsections, some of the points, whatever the notes, everything should be clearly written. There shouldn't be any ifs and buts or any ambiguity should not be there. So agreement is one of the documents basically. So many, however, your elaborate codes, different codification should be there. The codes which cover the great many aspects of the industrial relations. In some respects, they constitute a kind of industrial legislations regulating the condition of the employment of a vast number of employees. The following list, some of the lists are there, indicates your some of the main items which are included in the your collective agreements. As I already said, some of these, for example, wages, including the time rates, price rates, and other, basically the job concerned to jobs. These jobs, these rates. Another type of jobs, these rates, because the agreement are to be defined their official levels, workman levels, or even in the within the operation level, there are different things are skilled, unskilled, or supporting staffs. So everywhere the packages of wages will be different. So that also to be break up by some of the breakdowns of all everything. And the procedure for the fixings, so rates and for the new jobs should be cost things. So that's why in the agreement, in the collective agreement, that everything ought to be part 1, part 2, part 3, part 3. There is big organizations, there are different things. There is one book is there. The procedures basically there. And then hours, and then overtime. If it is overtime, then that also to be there. Shift working and the rest periods. There are some of the things are listed here. There are so many things are there, depending on the company to company sizing of the things, and the sick leaves and medical leaves, paternity leaves, and your seniority rights. What are the rights should be there as per the promotion policy related to promotion policies, career growth purposes. Then if any layoff or retrenchments, that things also to be defined. Then your discipline enforcement is everything has to be written in the agreements. The training for the workers, what type of training are likely to be given to the workers, apprenticeships, which is summer trainings, winter trainings. There are so many things are there. Then your French benefits, including your retired benefits, suppose the pension scheme or gratuity, everything. So all these things are coming in the agreement purposes. Then there are so many things, methods of the settling the grievances. Even in it is one of the big things, the grievance issues, how to settle these things. There some of the agreements should be this type of things. Yes, this is should be there. Within the rule books, I mean the agreement where during for the operation purposes, it should not be very problems. Okay, initially if it is decided that those who are the governing and executing the things, that time that should not be problem for doing so. There are again some issues are there, the discussion, the management and then any ambiguities or any dispute that should not be there, keeping in mind in the agreement itself, everything should be there. During the agreement, it is a subsequent continuations and procedures for the negotiation of a new agreement, or that is also to be considered. Now, conditions for success, how to success the things. So, success of the collective bargaining, that is the main issues. One of the principles for the establishing the promoting the collective bargaining, that is to give the voluntary recognitions to the trade unions as one of the contracting parties. It may also have a positive benefit of the improving your industrial relations, productions, and the productivity. There should be willingness to give and take by both the parties. That is one of the biggest things. Sometimes if your mindset, when you are the representative from the union leaders are joining in the meeting, and before joining the meeting, they are discussed with among the workers or something. They have set at some of the mindsets. you will not go beyond these things, we will not compromise the things. So what are their issues? They are strict about rigidity. I mean, then it is a create a problem. Even in the vice versa, in the union, in the management side, if the management decides no, I will not go below these things, I have to forcibly or have to do these things, something. What are the points? Then at the process of agreement or bargaining process, it may create a problem. Rigidity should not be allowed in the mind. You have to, some flexibility should be in there. So that's why willing to give and take. You have to compromise some of the points, and some of the new points that has to be. That's why very intellectual peoples are very awareness leaders should be there from the union sides or from the in this bargaining process. Everybody should have a good idea about these things, and from the employee side, means the union side, they should also focus on the organizations or companies' future. If they are not considering the future of the companies, then definitely it will be affecting in the long runs. And interest of the part of both to reach the agreement and make a collective bargaining. So collective bargaining means where this word is hiding those things, your positivity is required, and you should not be rigid very much. If required some of the flexibility, you have to flexible at times. Because you see now, if people are aware what is going on, the trade deal of the USA and India, the different from the Europe countries trade deal and the other countries, and for your USA recently. So you see the tariff are one of the things. So where some negotiation and some of the things are collectively, it is a process, maybe 6 months, 1 year, sometimes it takes more sometimes, and different type of, say, I think the meeting is required, representation is required, maybe the revised, redesign, reset. So then after all, finally some settlement and the agreement will be there, signed by both the parties. Then it will be. So it is a real, I think, life examples for what is going on, the economical forum of the things. So trade union should refrain from the putting forward exaggerated demands. So if they have adamant to resist, no, this is our demand, without any considering the, as I said, all these points, then it will be problems. Then settlement may not be effective, settlement will not be there, or sometimes unsuccessful. That process are unsuccessful. There is no agreement, no sign, nothing. As you know, the latest trade deal things are going on worldwide. The success of the collective bargaining depends upon the following factors. Now we have to see what are the factors we should follow, and then we can succeed the things. The whole atmosphere of the collective bargainings get your veterans relations become the bitter, and the strain and the negotiations more difficult. If the process, during the process, any bitterness or any arguments or any communications, miscommunications happens, then definitely the negotiations will be affected, and it will be, the negotiations will be more difficult. You cannot do any negotiations. because the point are not discussed at all. So communication of the point, as you see our last parliamentary working conditions, as you can see, where the discussion are not effective because so many issues are not communicated properly, not follow the rules sometimes. So that's why the management and the union leaders or things, those who are coming for the negotiation purposes, there has to be a rule. So you have to follow the rules. The negotiation process are to be defined. What are the topics should be discussed? What are the issues are to be discussed? So there should not be other things. So noise and other disturbance should not be there. So aggressiveness are to be avoided. See, collective bargaining usually takes place when there are different differences between the parties on certain issues. But in order to make the collective bargaining process more successful, if it is essential for the part of the representatives of the employers and unions to hold meetings at regular intervals. That's what I am saying. If the meeting is not there, disturbed something, then issues are not deliberated from both the parties. So allow the discussions in a different intervals. It should not be stopped. Then we can towards the successful. So some outcome will be in a very good outcomes will become. So it is essential to part of the representatives of the employers and the union of the old meetings at a regular intervals to consider the matters of the common interest. Now these things what I have highlighted, it is really factuals and what is happening in our India or not only globally. This is because of this only. So that's why you are not getting the success as we desired sometimes. So if the questions coming, why the success point of view, or why we are not succeeding the things, this is also these things, and how to success the things, again the same answer will be there. Conditions for the success of the collective things. The effective collective bargaining, your supposes the intelligent understanding. It is a pre-requirement, or you can say the presupposes. We have to assume these things should be there. So intelligent understanding of the both management and the union, of the needs, aspirations, objectives, and the problems of the other parties. I will repeat once again. Problems of the other parties. It is fit for the current situation what is going on. So, respect to each others, allow the things, and if it is beyond the rule are not maintained, definitely there should be control, that should be controlled, but allowing and discussions are required, main things. So that is one of the another issues for the conditions. So if the conditions means we have to allow both the parties discussions, what about the things as a time slot, everything, and then definitely we have to towards your success points. Otherwise, there will be some full stop. You cannot go beyond these things. The effectiveness of the collective bargainings cannot be attained without maturity of the leaderships of both sides of the bargaining table. When in the bargaining table, both the parties have a sensible maturity. You see these terms, maturity, leadership skills, then we can assume or we can expect some of the effectiveness of the bargaining. So that is also another point for success the things. So intelligent collective bargaining demands specialized training. Again I have just highlighted the things because specialized training is required. Seniors will give some of the trainings or some specialized team should be there, consultants should be there, they have to train them. Even in the union leaders, when they are participating, they are likely to be participate in the meetings. Before that, somebody has to train them. Yes, your point is right. What are your points? This is the way you have to present. This is the way you have to say. So some training is required in the background. And similarly, in the management side, management sometimes they have discussed and some expert, they can call some of the expert. You just go through this and see and tell me what are the way we can proceed the things, or points are okay or not. So expert people can give a advice to from both the sides, managements as well as from the union side also. As a neutral body should be there, one neutral person should be there who can see both the things and control the things. So specialized training is required. The both management and the union options find it difficult to locate the men and the other side of the table who are authorized to negotiate. So negotiations can be possible when both the party are talented, both the party are equal level of thought process. Yes, different points should be there, and ultimate aim is to organizations, betterment of the organizations. So that things are that persons should be empowered from the management side and from the union side, those who are participating in this process, to act for the company and the union respectively, from the company side and from the sides. Now coming to your last unit number 12, negotiations, last unit in this block. Negotiations are also almost, we have discussed some of the points already, I have highlighted some of the things. Negotiation where it is everyday life, we are just come across negotiation the things. Means you are one step, two steps advance, and sometimes you have to back for one steps. Again you go for 3 steps, maybe sometimes situations demand you have to go back for 1 step behind and you can again. So that process is going. You are somewhere something, you are compromising the things. 100% compromisations may not be fruitful, because then you will be always in the backside. So negotiation is like this. Sometimes you are in a front line, sometimes maybe you are in the second line, so first again you are in the first line. So that process is going on in everyday life. The process of the negotiation has been described by the Walton and the Maxiers as the deliberate interactions of the two or more complex social units which are attempting to define or redefine the terms of their independence. So many different, another definitions are then given that the negotiation process are basically an occasions where one or more representatives of two or more parties interact in your explicit attempts to reach a jointly acceptable positions on one or more divisive issues. So suppose there are A and B, there are two parties, I mean your workers unions and the managements. Now they are started from particular positions at theirs, means the points. Now A is coming some of the points, they have agreed, and B is also agreed some of the points. Still dispute is going on, and then now slowly they are closings, and finally they have to join hands. The issues are solved. So if they are not moving there is it particular one point, and they are also not moving. But what or otherwise, suppose there is some central point is there. Now they are reaching, one party is reaching, but other party is not reaching. They are strictly stand there only. Then again it's a problem. So some of the advancing proposals. So the negotiation is essential for a process of advancing proposals. What the your proposals, you have to advance it. If you stop somewhere, stick somewhere, then problem. You have to redesign, you have to redefine your problems, whatever the things, and somewhere something you have to compromise some of the things. Okay, if it is significantly, you have to see how much significance for your conditions, or percentage wise, maybe the 2% or 3%. See where you are, to consider the other points. So discussion and criticizing them, sometimes it is criticizing is also there. Explaining, there are, see, that's why I bolded out some of the points. There are discussions, criticizings, explaining, exploring. So all this part of your negotiation process, these all words are the, you can see the component or are elements of this particular negotiation process. It will be there, because you have to discuss the things, the discussion points are there. Sometimes the criticisms are there. Maybe you have to criticize the things to hold your points and explain the things, justify why these things. You have to justify the things so that it should be agreeable, accepted by the all. So their meaning for the effects is seeking to secure their acceptance. Idea is your acceptance, all. Maybe in the other party's points, or maybe the vice versa. All these points are to be things in the one box. There are initially it is a two box. Now all these things are putting in particular in a common one box. All these points should be in common box, for the benefit for the workers, benefit of the employees, benefit for the employers, benefit for the company itself. This is only one box. And what are the things are not required? You can delete it, you can discard the things, and the real parts of the things or points are ideas or things, I can put it in particular one box. So both the party are, this is just like a game of competitions. And making counter proposals or modifications, that is also important part in the for the negotiation process. So it may require some of the counter proposals and for the modification, as the Trump USA, what the way they have tariff drama is going on, as you know, that is one of the real examples. Finally they have to impose some of the tariffs, then after that they have to redesign, again they have to counter it, then another 25% penalty as such, then after that now they have down, and again that they have redesigned the things, 18% tariffs towards your Indian products. So this is the negotiation process. Now it's a time, the 6 months or 7 months, so many times our commerce ministers and went there and discussed the things. It's not a one-day job or one particular jobs. Lot of negotiation discussions are going on like this, discussions, criticisms, explain the things, explore the things. Finally you have to see it in the positive way, both things. So similar, then similar evaluations. That is basically the definition of the negotiations, and it is all of the component and parts of the negotiation process. Then so many other Walton again they have to see in the proper process. Their proceed one of the more influential models in the analyzing the negotiation. Another thing, the negotiation process, the negotiators should be expert on these fields. It is not a very easy job to go there and discuss your points. You have to keep in your mind points, to stick with the points, and you have to success at these points. It's a very challenging jobs, and lot of knowledge and lot of exercise are required. So they distinguish the following four systems for the activity of the sub-processings in the labor negotiations, each having a own functions for the interacting the parties, that is your distributive bargaining, the function of which is to solve conflicts between the parties and integrated your integrated bargainings. That is the function of which is to find common or complementary interest. Another your attitudinal structurings. The function of which is the influence an attribute of the participants towards each others. And intra-organizational bargaining. Now different type of functioning process are given, and where basically to solve your conflict, to solve the conflicts between the parties, integrated things, and intra-organizational bargaining is also there. The function of which is to achieve the consensus within each of the interacting groups. When in the organizations also, when the very big company, the HOD has called the subsections also, these come join and issues can be discussed. There are also sometimes lot of negotiation parties going on. Some of the section officers is saying, sir, I need some of the manpower, it's not there, because then he has to justify that this HOD may be asked, why you are required 2% extra, you tell me why. Then he has to justify this type of work is there, this is a bifurcated skill job is there, my team is now overloaded or loaded, so I require another 2%. Then all these things are HOD have been noted down, and finally maybe in the second round or third round they have to decide it accordingly. They have to give some negotiation to the HRM and the HR department. Now I require these things, 3% for this department, 2% for other department, other sections. So then only I can run the business. So this is the way, consolidated way they have to see. Sometimes the intra departments are discussing with this. So it is within the organization sometimes lot of your process are going on. There are also sometimes conflict, argument, everything are going on, criticisms are there. So while the sub-process are related and can occur simultaneously, particularly the integrative and the distributive sub-processes, conceptually they are quite different. So there are here actually some of the things are different process are described. Now guidelines. Because you see everywhere, any discussions or any meetings, any issues, guidelines is very important. So if it is not there, then discipline is not. Nobody knows. It's a track. That is basically the focus should be this. You have to go in this way. This is the route. This is the route way you have to discuss. This is the point should be there. This is the way you have to. So that's why some guidelines has to be fixed based on the previous experiences, or expert people can give the guidelines depending on the situations. The following are some guidelines for the negotiations. Don't be afraid to negotiate. This is one of the things. If you are afraid for the negotiations, then you cannot be successful. So डरना नहीं है, वो भय वो आपको दूर करना है. Yes, I have to establish my points. I have to keep my points in a very solid way, as did our India is did in this way. Trump has given his pressures or something, but India is not झुकेगा नहीं. I mean, stick particular this point. What about the when then we have to explore some other way also. If something is stuck off somewhere, then it may be different routes are to be explored. So let us never negotiate out of the fears. So half-heartedly or डर के कुछ नहीं करना चाहिए, I mean साइन नहीं करना चाहिए. That is the things. But let us never fear to negotiate. It is actually as per the John F. Kennedy, he has written these things. So this is one of the rule guidelines. So you have to stick to, in your points. You have to clarify it. You have to discuss. You have to explain the things. You try to take acceptance of the all. That is your quality and intelligence, and how far you have your point is right. It may, in this process, it may require some of the redefine or redesign or modifications. You do it, but don't leave it these things. So don't negotiate when you have nothing to bargain with. So you have to, what are the we have to counter it. That thing also, that process you should be make ready. If something is counter or something is coming, what the way you have to answer it. That answer should be ready for in your mind. Expected things are to be, you have to prepare it. If you are not negotiate, I mean you don't negotiate, then you have nothing to bargain. When border objectives might be prejudices, mutual respect and the trust are fundamental requirements. That is obviously respect, mutual respect is required, where you have to cool down or control yourselves, where the respect, due respect to be given, and if it is violated, then definitely some guide, as per the guidelines, as per the rules, punishment will be there. That also should be there. So especially with a win-win strategy, the style of negotiations will depend in part of the qualities and skills of the parties involved. Again, here some skill is now again coming, the talent, skills, intelligence definitely is required. Then only the quality discussions we can expect it. Skilled negotiators will conclude better deals. So those who are skilled, they can things. So every country, every organizations, they should have one of the skilled negotiators who can deal with the things. Identify the decision maker on the other sides. At the same time, leadership skills are involved in this way. Decision making process, definitely the leaderships have to identify the discussion maker who will be there, the other sides. Now some of the your principled negotiations. A process called your principled negotiations, which are developed by the Harvard Negotiations project and published in a book titled Getting to Yes. The essential elements of the process is to be hard on the merits, soft on the people. You see the lines, hard on the merits and soft on the people. Whatever your merits, you have to stick on these things. Knowledge wise, you can challenge, you can do it, some things. But when you are on the people, I mean, you have to soften up. The goal is to be decided. The goal is to decide the issues or presented at the negotiable table on their merits. So stick to your objectives and the goals. Under the principled negotiations model, the first objective is to separate the people from the problems. So when you are in a process of these things, negotiation, that as per the models, first things you have to eliminate the problematic areas. Even those who are not want to get involved in this process in a positive way or in the right mindsets, definitely have to eliminate the things so that your ultimate aim your objective is to reach the goal. The principal negotiations approach is highly desirable in ongoing labor relations. Unfortunately, that's why I given in a different color to create a focus on these things. However, it is difficult to apply principle to negotiations in a characteristics or more mature bargaining relationships, unlike the hard bargaining approach which is frequently found in the less matured relationships. So, this para are very important to keep in mind when if the question is coming the principle negotiations, then you have to justify and write something. If you need some example also you can give it to. Now, the principal negotiation for the success of the negotiations, what have to do and what are the things are there. First things, always do your homework. So, before coming in the negotiation tables, so you have to, homework is required. If you are not doing your homework, maybe you may not be able to explain the things in a right way, in a right manner. Always feel free to ask questions. Listen to what other persons has to say. That is another quality should be there. You have to listen what the other parties say. Then you can counter it, you can give your proposals, or you may redefine the things if needed, if you feel no, okay, what he is saying is correct, some of the points are very correct. Then if your mind is accepted, then maybe you have to redesign the things. So you until and unless you are not listening the things, then there is no way out. So maintain an attitude of respect for your opposite at all times. Who are in the opposite table and the negotiation tables, those who are, so you have to give some respect. Without respect, you cannot continue your meetings or any deal or any discussions. Then it is a success point for the negotiation. What I saying. Then you are honor the whatever the commitments made. Now this is another thing. Sometimes it has happened, and the negotiation tables, acceptance is also there. Still, sometimes we are not getting the honor of these things. So you have once you are accepted, you have to give honor of these things. You have to follow these things. So to obey these things. So adopt a friendly tone. When you are accepted the things, your mind clear, okay, no problem. But that time your tone should be on things. It not sounding you are by in the pressures you are doing all these things. Or maybe half-heartedly you are. Acceptance means you have to you say yes, good. Maybe you have to accept it, that you have to show it. So it shows your friendly tones. Yes, fine. Then negotiation skill and traits is required. As I said, absolutely the successful negotiations can be you set the clear objectives, then you should not be hurry enough. Then when there are any doubts, you can call for the consensus, you can do it, prepare it, and flexible. There are so many points. Actively listen, builds the reputations. These all are the basic points. Are control emotions. You have to control your emotions. There should not be any conflict because your objective is fixed. You have to always focus on your goal. Then remember some of the elevated and the bargaining moves, and then you consider the impact of the present negotiations on the future relationships or the parties attribute and the negotiating also. So at the time of negotiation also you have to see your future also. You see what we have to maintain. So negotiation team should be consist of 3 to 4 persons, because if it is a more persons, sometimes negotiations may not be fruitful, because so many ideas sometimes create a noise. So you have to have it restrict. So it is a from the industrial point of view I am saying, not our parliamentary democracy systems. It is a for the organization point of view, where the negotiation, those are expert, and should be minimum team should be there, and they have to finalize it. They can, as a support team should be there. They can take a support from the that's persons, but in the meeting, the negotiation team should be advisory. It is desirable for 3 to 4 persons are sufficient for that things. So this is the way things are there. A commitment of the management. Now see, the sometimes your low rank without the authority, because sometimes the participation is participated, that they have some low levels, and then not sufficient knowledge is theirs, both the way. So that is the management of the negotiation tables. You have to ensure the parties are enough knowledge. So now some of the questions are related to things. That is your define the collective bargaining, then the process in India, collective bargaining in India, what type of, and productivity bargaining. This type of questions likely to be coming in the exam times, and this is the way. In the negotiation guidelines, a question may come. Negotiation skills. What type of skills are required for the negotiations? What are the strategies for the negotiation? You have to take it. Then this is the way. I think now it is covered. The block 3 is now complete. Okay. Thank you very much.